Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Anil Thomas. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. The European Union agrees to open membership negotiations with Ukraine. Hungary holds up EU deal on 50 billion euros for Ukraine.
That's exactly how it works. This is a truly remarkable result for Ukraine and for the whole of Europe.
Top Biden advisor Jake Sullivan meets Israel's Prime Minister, urges on shifting to lower intensity campaign. Netanyahu stresses war against Hamas until absolute victory. Sullivan to meet Palestinian President today.
We are more determined than ever to continue fighting until Hamas is eliminated, until absolute victory.
India thrashed South Africa by 106 runs in the third T20 match in Joburg, leveled the series 1-1. The European Union's 27 heads of state have made the historic choice to open membership negotiations with Ukraine despite vocal opposition from Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban. The decision puts Ukraine firmly on the long and complex road to EU membership. While on the second day of the summit on Friday, the leaders are set to discuss migration, security and defense. DD India's Alex Kadia has the latest from Brussels.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has described the decision by EU leaders to open accession talks for his country as a victory for Ukraine and a victory for all of Europe. He says it will strengthen and inspire.
This is extremely important. We want to support Ukraine. It's a very powerful political signal. It's a very powerful political decision. And today and tonight, I think to the people of Ukraine, we are on their side, and this decision made by the member states is extremely important for the credibility of the European Union.
Today, there's a decision to open negotiations on accession to the European Union. This step will be followed by the next ones. This is a massive job to integrate the state, all the institutions, all the norms, all of it into the European Union. But we will do it.
It's a decision that came quite unexpectedly. EU leaders had been locked in painstaking negotiations with Hungary, who had promised to veto opening these accession talks. Prime Minister Viktor Orban had said Ukraine is just not ready. It is too corrupt, and its vast agricultural industry may threaten European farmers. But when the moment came to make the decision, Viktor Orban was not in the room, meaning that Hungary abstained and the decision was able to go through. Moments later, Mr. Orban called it a bad decision, but EU leaders beyond that are united in saying it was a historic moment of support, a clear symbol that the European Union stands by Ukraine for as long as it takes. Alex Kadia in Brussels reporting for DD India.
Meanwhile, Hungary held up a European Union aid package of 50 billion euros for Ukraine, though EU leaders decided to resume talks in January. European Council President Charles Michel said 26 EU countries were in agreement to provide Ukraine with the money from the EU budget until 2027. He did not cite Hungary, namely, but said a leader was against that decision, which requires unanimity.
26 leaders agreed on the net numbers in all its companies. I should be very precise. One leader, Sweden, needs to consult its parliament, which is in line with the usual procedure for this country. And one leader couldn't agree on this net numbers. It means that there is a strong support for all the components of this net numbers. And it means that we will revert to this matter early next year, and we will try to get unanimity.
The US welcomed the European Union's decision to open membership talks with Ukraine and Moldova. The State Department in a statement said that it also applauded the EU's decision to grant candidate status to Georgia and opened membership negotiations with Bosnia and Herzegovina. It also added that the United States continues to strongly support the EU's enlargement process, and we look forward to supporting EU candidates and prospective candidate countries as they continue critical reforms on the path to EU membership. Ukrainian soldiers are undergoing training in Germany under the European Union's mission umbrella EUMAM. Working under the tuition of EU's military assistance mission in support of Ukraine and taught by a multinational team, they learn how to apply tourniquets in the field, set mines, as well as basic combat medical training. The training for the Ukrainian soldiers and troops on German soil is coordinated by the Special Training Command in Germany. The 56-man group have had over 3 weeks to learn what is usually taught in a year to German soldiers, with the hope of being able to implement the training in the real war back home. Shifting focus to Israel-Hamas armed conflict now, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan met with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Thursday to discuss the ongoing situation in Gaza. The two leaders discussed about securing the return of hostages held by Hamas terrorists and the continuation of humanitarian aid for Gaza's civilian population. Netanyahu also briefed Sullivan on regional threats, including Iranian proxies Hezbollah in Lebanon and Houthis in Yemen. With the war's consequences escalating fast, Netanyahu has so far brushed off appeals for a ceasefire, and he thanked the United States for blocking the attempts at the UN to stop the fighting.
I greatly appreciate the US support for Israel in the supply of munition for the Israeli army, in blocking the attempts at the UN to stop the fighting, and in the assistance in returning our hostages. I would like to clarify, the return of our hostages is the main goal. We are not relenting in our efforts even for a moment. Even at this moment, I told our American friends, our heroic soldiers have not fallen in vain. Out of the deep pain of their having fallen, we are more determined than ever to continue fighting until Hamas is eliminated, until absolute victory.
U.S. President Joe Biden's National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan will meet with Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah on Friday about the conflict in Gaza and ensuring that the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7th is never repeated. According to senior U.S. officials, Jake Sullivan will discuss the ongoing efforts to revamp and revitalize the Palestinian Authority and rein in extremist settler violence against Palestinians in the occupied West Bank. The U.S. Senate will vote on military aid for Ukraine and Israel next week as negotiations continue over changes to U.S. border security policy that would be tied to the funding. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said that the Senate will delay its holiday break, which had been due to start today, to give negotiators some more time to reach an agreement. Democratic President Joe Biden has been urging lawmakers to pass a supplement aid package to provide $50 billion in new security to Ukraine as it fights Russia, as well as $14 billion for Israel as it wages war against Hamas in Gaza. Republican House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson, as well as Republicans in the Democratic Majority Senate, have repeatedly said they will only vote for that and if it is paired with new controls for the US-Mexico border. Moving on, Guyana and Venezuela have agreed to avoid any escalation of conflict amid a recent heightening of tensions over an oil-rich and disputed border area. The decision was taken during a meeting between the President of Venezuela and Guyana on Thursday. Disagreement over the region of Essequibo has run for decades, but Venezuela revived the claim, including 2 offshore areas in recent years after major oil and gas discoveries. The dispute is before the International Court of Justice, though a final ruling could be years away. Speaking in favor of which, the Guyanese president said both sides are committed to ensuring the region remains peaceful.
We are a peace-abiding country and people.
Somos un país y pueblo.
We have no other ambition
Y no tenemos otra ambición
than to pursue the peaceful coexistence
sino de proseguir la convivencia pacífica
with Venezuela
con Venezuela
and every country in this region.
y asegurar
This matter
que este asunto
is determined
se determine
by the ICJ
por la CIJ
and that the outcome
y que el resultado
of this matter at the
del
ICJ
asunto ante la CIJ
be respected by all.
sea respetado por
Voters in Venezuela this month rejected the court's jurisdiction and backed the creation of a new state in a referendum. Guyana has questioned the vote's turnout and said its land border is not up for discussion. The two leaders met at the airport in Kingston in St. Vincent and Grenadines alongside representation from CARICOM, the Caribbean Political and Economic Union Brazil, the United Nations and the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States. Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines read a joint statement after the meeting. Let's listen in.
Guyana and Venezuela declared as follows. 1. Agreed that Guyana and Venezuela directly or indirectly will not threaten or use force against one another in any circumstances, including those consequential to any existing controversies between the two states. 2. Agreed that any controversies between the two states will be resolved in accordance with international law, including the Geneva Agreement dated February 17, 1966. Agreed to continue dialogue on any other pending matters of mutual importance to the two countries. 6. Agreed that both states will refrain, whether by words or deeds, from escalating any conflict or disagreement arising from any controversy between them.
Well, now from South China Sea, Philippines is preparing for potential conflict with China in the South China Sea with plans to repel Chinese forces boarding Philippine vessels. Tensions between the two countries have increased due to clashes and standoffs in the disputed area. The Philippines has accused China of aggressive and dangerous actions. DD India's correspondent Patrick Falk has more from Singapore.
There has been an increase in hostility between the two sides in recent weeks, and perhaps it comes as no surprise that the Philippines is planning ahead for it. A senior military official has said that includes the scenario, as you mentioned, of Chinese forces boarding Philippine vessels. It's something that they say that they've been training for in war game exercises because the Philippines will not allow that to happen. They also said that they are considering what other coercive actions the Chinese might take. They've seen water cannon, they've seen ramming, and now they are questioning what other steps China could take short of an armed attack of any sort. Now, that will be a concern to America in particular. It has repeatedly said that it will defend its treaty ally, although the Pentagon said recently that that does not extend to unsafe operations like the firing of water cannon and like collisions. But if it goes any further than that, then it could really be a test for how far Washington's support for the Philippines goes.
Well, China on Friday pressured Taiwan with a trade barrier probe and warplanes in the Taiwan Strait a month before the island holds key elections as Taipei calls on Beijing to stop its political operations. The Jan 13 presidential and parliamentary elections are taking place in China as sought to force Taiwan to accept Chinese sovereignty claims. Taiwan's government and the ruling Democratic Progressive Party have repeatedly said China is trying to interfere in the vote, whether by military means or co-opting Taiwanese politicians to ensure an outcome favorable to Beijing. China's Commerce Ministry said it had determined Taiwan had put up trade barriers in contravention of both World Trade Organization rules and a trade deal signed in 2010 with Taiwan. These barriers have had a negative impact on Chinese companies. Let's take a look at some other stories from around the world. A faulty roller coaster in Osaka, Japan, left people hanging upside down, according to an eyewitness. The incident occurred at the Universal Studios Japan's Flying Dinosaur ride, which stopped at a 46-meter tall point. Workers led the struck drivers to safety, leaving no one injured. A similar incident occurred 5 years ago. Los Angeles is adorned with festival holiday lights and Christmas decorations, bringing a festive spirit to the city. In Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive is illuminating with holiday lights, while an Israeli flag is displayed outside the City Hall. Santa Monica's pier is also decorated with holiday season lights. New York City streets are filled with festive decorations, including a giant candy cane near Radio City Music Hall, an 80-feet Norway spruce Christmas tree with over 50,000 LED lights, ice skaters in Bryant Park's Santa Claus crossing streets, riding bikes and singing carols, and innovative window displays at the Manhattan department stores. Canada, Toronto celebrates Holiday Magic 2023 with elaborate lights in the Bloor Yorkville neighborhood and the financial district. Birksey Park, known for its dog fountain, features canine-themed lights and dog statues dressed in winter scarves and sweaters. Inglewood Avenue, also known as Kringlewood, features 50 giant inflatable Santas in its 8th year of Yuletide tradition. Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. India has created world's first portable emergency hospital that can be set up in just 10 minutes. Government's Namo Drone Didi scheme is helping women become integral stakeholders in agriculture. India's stock market at an all-time high, followed by Asian and US markets.
Infertility epidemic beginning to slowly engulf the human race. Get the answer on Connecting the Dots every Friday at 8 p.m. IST on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Anil Thomas. The alleged main conspirator of India's parliament security breach, Lalit Mohan Jha, was arrested by the Delhi police on Thursday. He was absconding since the incident took place. Police is currently interrogating him. Earlier, the Patiala House Court of Delhi sent the 4 other accused to 7 days of police remand. The 4 accused persons are Neelam, Amol, Sagar Sharma and Manoranjan. The Delhi police has registered a case under the stringent Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, that's UAPA, in this case. Both houses adjourned till 2 p.m. following opposition uproar over the lower house of Indian Parliament, that's Lok Sabha, over that security breach incident. In the Indian Parliament, following activities scheduled for the day, the lower house of Indian Parliament, that's the Lok Sabha, will today take up the Post Office Bill 2023 for consideration and passing. This has been moved by the Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnav on Wednesday. The bill seeks to consolidate and amend the law relating to post office in India. India's Home Minister Amit Shah will propose to discuss and pass 3 criminal laws. Apart from this, MPs will also be present to discuss their private members' bill in both houses of Parliament, as it is a weekend, and the members bring the private members' bill on Friday. India's ruling political party BJP leader Bhajanlal Sharma will take oath as the Chief Minister of Rajasthan today. The state governor Kalraj Mishra will administer the oath to Bhajanlal Sharma. 2 deputy chief ministers Diya Kumari and Premchand Bairwa will also take oath. The swearing-in ceremony will take place at the Albert Hall in Jaipur. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Home Minister and BJP President JP Nadda will attend the swearing-in ceremony. Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Namo Drone Didi initiative, which aims to supply drones to 15,000 self-help groups to rent to farmers for agricultural purposes. The scheme addresses the need to modernize agricultural practices. India's Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Hardeep Singh Puri, mentioned during a briefing how the Namo Drone Didi scheme is aimed at empowering women in rural areas to become integral stakeholders in their local farming supply chains.
माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी ने ये निर्णय लिया कि 15,000 हम अपनी ड्रोन दीदीज को ट्रेन करेंगे and allow them to utilize this new weapon in their hands, the drone, for agricultural and other purposes.
Recently, some Indian airports faced congestion issues during the heavy airtime traffic, causing passengers to miss flights and overcrowding at airports. India's Minister for Civil Aviation, Jyotiraditya Scindia, has now informed that 16 Indian airports are being worked upon to resolve the issue.
16 airports in total were taken on board on the 12th of December, and we started working at what the causes for congestion were. We started working on a schematic as to what the parameters should be for each touch point. And post our initial exercise, we had a meeting with the Home Minister, and along with him, we decided that we must have international benchmarks that are put in place in terms of capacity at each one of these touch points.
India has created the world's first portable emergency hospital, Arogya Mitra Cube, that can be set up in just 10 minutes. In the event of a natural disaster, the hospital setup can be prepared on site. More in this report by our health correspondent, Nitendra Singh.
Have you ever thought that a cube resembling a matchbox with 72 rooms can become a hospital? Well, India has created the world's smallest and portable emergency hospital entirely using indigenous technology. This hospital, named Arogya Maitri Cube, is an enclosure with 36 square rooms. It is so compact that it can be lifted anywhere by air. In any emergency situation, it can be set up as a hospital within 10 to 15 minutes at any location. The hospital includes an ICU, OPD, operation theatre, beds, medicines, and food supplies. It can treat 200 people and accommodate 100 patients on beds for up to 48 hours.
दुनिया के सामने ये आरोग्य मैत्री लेकर आए हैं, जिससे हम हेल्प प्रोवाइड करना चाहते हैं, ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा हम जानें बचाना चाहते हैं, क्योंकि सबसे बड़ा हमारा मोटिव है एवरी लाइफ मैटर्स, हर एक जान बहुत कीमती है और हमारी ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा जानें शुरू के 1 घंटे में चली जाती है, जिसे हम गोल्डन आवर बोलते हैं. होता क्या है कि अगर कुछ भी हुआ है, वॉर सिचुएशन है, नेचुरल डिजास्टर्स हैं, फ्लड है, अर्थक्वेक है, कोई रेलवे एक्सीडेंट हुआ है, कोई नॉर्मल रोड साइड एक्सीडेंट हुआ है, तो राइट टाइम पे पेशेंट हॉस्पिटल तक नहीं पहुंच पाता है. तो हमने क्या किया है कि हम हॉस्पिटल को ही पेशेंट तक पहुंचा दें.
The hospital contains equipment such as labs for testing, ventilators, X-ray machines, and ultrasound machines, everything found in a modern hospital. The hospital is designed for easy setup, allowing doctors or paramedical staff to prepare it. Under Prime Minister Modi's initiative, the Defence Ministry, in collaboration with the Health Ministry, has prepared this hospital at a cost of ₹2 crores. Under the Arogya Maitri initiative, India has also gifted similar hospitals to its neighbours, Sri Lanka and Myanmar. Nitendra Singh for DD India.
India's key stock index are on their record highs on Friday. Sensex hit 71,000, while the Nifty topped the 21,300 mark, led by gains, especially in IT and metal stocks, leading the rally. Markets are poised to maintain their upward trajectory, fueled by a dovish stance there by the Federal Reserve, hinting at a potential rate cut in 2024, coupled with a decrease in the US bond yield and favorable domestic factors, including India's upgraded GDP forecast and lower global oil prices. Asian markets are trading higher, taking cues from Wall Street's overnight gains. Japan's Nikkei 225 and South Korea's Kospi saw modest increases, while Australian shares hit a 4-month high, beyond by strong jobs data and US Federal Reserve's rate cut outlook for next year. In cricket, Indian skipper Suryakumar Yadav produced a brilliant 100 to help India bounce back with a big win against the Proteas to level the 3-match T20 series 1-all. India registered a 106-run win in the third and final T20 game. Suryakumar chipped in with a useful 100 and chasing 201. South Africa were never in the chase as Kuldeep Yadav spun his web around the South African batsmen to dismiss them for inside 100. Kuldeep picked 5 wickets as South Africa were bowled out for just 95. After this particular T20 series, India will begin the one-day series starting on December 17th. Well, that's all in this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, Instagram. We're going to be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I am Anil Thomas from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.